it's time to take a look back at 2024. What was my favorite book each month? So let's get into it. In January of 2024, I read A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. One of my top books of the year, and the fact that I read that in January, it just like set this bar that I will never be able to surpass. The cabin scene, perfection. Next, in February, I actually had two favorite reads. The first one was A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. This comes after Mist and Fury. The next book that was my favorite in February was Look Closer by David Ellis. I've actually never read anything by him, and I thought this was so good. It was so twisty, so unreliable narrator. It just was really good. It took me for a ride. March, I was ready for spring, country, summer, love. My favorite book was Heartless by Elsie Silver. I had started my Chestnut Springs series read, and Heartless was by far my favorite. I mean, need I say more? I thought that the banter was top notch. They're so atmospheric. They just make you want to live on a little ranch. And it was the perfect time to read that book. If you haven't read Chestnut Springs yet, I highly recommend you read it in the springtime. It will just get you so excited for the warm weather. And my favorite read of April was actually a book I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, and that is The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle Jensen. So this is a 4-book series, but the first 2 books follow this one couple, and then the next 2 books take a completely different turn with a different couple. I thought the plot was really good. I thought the romance was really good. I was really invested. I immediately went into the sequel. I didn't rate the sequel as high, and then I did kind of stop because I felt like I wasn't as interested in the book 3 and 4, that couple. I gotta be seated for this one. So May, I have 2 favorite reads. The first one is Binding 13. So I start my Boys of Tommen series in May. I actually read it on my trip to Colorado, and I was absolutely hooked. Like hooked. All-time favorite series now for me, and it had to be my favorite of May. I'm in the middle of talking about my favorites. The other favorite book of May was The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I mean, heart-gripping read. I've talked about it on my channel before. Absolutely, it's a must-read book for everyone at some point in their life. Then we move into June. And my favorite read for June was Keeping 13. So it's the second book in the Boys of Tommen series. We're still following Johnny and Shannon. I still gave it 5 stars. I think about it constantly. It had to be a June favorite. A close second for my June favorite was 28 Summers by Eldon Hildebrand. I've talked about 28 Summers before. It was a book that really caught me by surprise. I was just looking for a light, atmospheric Nantucket beach read from Ellen, and 28 Summers absolutely caught me by surprise. I cried. I thought it was so endearing. We're in July. 2 favorite reads for July as well. Saving 6 from the Boys of Tommen series. I think you're realizing there's a pattern here. This is following a different storyline with different characters. So this is Joey and Aoife's story, and I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. And then honorable mention, Bad Summer People by Emma Rosenbaum. If you like Ellen Hildebrand's writing, I highly recommend Bad Summer People. I thought it was a really phenomenal read. I was really engaged the whole time. August. This was a month for me that I had just a weird reading experience. I feel like I wasn't finding a lot of books that hit. One book that did, Lovely War by Julie Berry. This book is so unique. If you like historical fiction, you would love Lovely War, but it has a unique take. It is narrated by Greek gods and goddesses, and it of course follows a love story, and it is very heart-gripping. It's phenomenal. I was like on the edge of my seat the whole time, and I thought the writing was truly poetic and beautiful. September, I was like giggling, kicking my feet for, was Blood Orange by Karina Hale. I am a sucker for a vampire book, and I just saw Nosferatu, so like the vampire lore is like fully back. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and it's a duet. The first book, 5 stars, and the ending, like I have no words for the ending. You're on the edge of your seat, your mouth's on the floor. So immediately you got to go into the next book. October, something was in the water for October. I had so many 5-star reads in October. It was the best reading month for me of the year by far. First of my favorite books was, I was in the Throne of Glass. So I'm in Throne of Glass at this point. So we all know that that'll take you for a ride, and it definitely has taken me for a ride in the back half of 2024. Crown of Midnight. I mean, the ending of Crown of Midnight is just like masterful. So absolutely loved it. At that point, I'm like raring to go. Assassin's Blade, good. Throne of Glass, good. Crown of Midnight, wow. The next one I listened to on audiobook, Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. It's narrated by Meryl Streep. Soothing, blast that in my ears. Can I get Meryl Streep on my Hatch alarm? And then the last 5-star read that was my favorite for October was Taming 7. So we're seeing a pattern here. This was Gibbsy and Claire's story, and I loved it. I know some people weren't the hugest fan of it in terms of just like the Boys of Tom and Universe wasn't their favorite. I loved it. I was giggling, kicking my feet. I was sobbing in a corner. We went many different places in Taming 7 in the last 2 months of the year. In November, the best book of the month was Fairytale by Veronica Lancet. I love Fairytale. Not enough people talk about Fairytale. It's good. It's good, and it's a standalone. So if you're one of those people like me who like loves fantasy, but I also don't necessarily want to commit to like a 6-book series, read Fairytale. Especially if you're into like gothic, dark, like that's the vibe. Yearning, lustful, oh my gosh. Fairytale is so good. And then we go into December, and boy did December take me for a ride, okay? But we were still in our Throne of Glass tandem read. So naturally, Throne of Glass is taking a seat in December to bring her on home, John B. Okay? Queen of Shadows, she's phenomenal. She's perfection. She's chef's kiss. Like, I was so ready for her after Heir of Fire. Loved Queen of Shadows. Then I went into the tandem read. I mean, Tower of Dawn, like, it's amazing for what it is. The tandem read needs to be done together, in my opinion. But, like, Empire of Storms, yes. So those were both 5-star reads for me. Absolutely amazing. Going into January, I have Kingdom of Ash to read. So we'll see if my 2025 wrap up, my January seat goes to Kingdom of Ash. I don't see how it couldn't, but all right. Well, that was everything for 2024. I'm excited to see what 2025 brings.